welcome to Guitar World Magazine. My name is Joe Bonamassa, and welcome to New York City. This is the first time we're doing one from Nerdville Gotham, here, my little apartment in New York City. So we have to keep the volume down, ladies and gentlemen, or else we get the broomstick on the ceiling or the floor. Headed both, sometimes simultaneously. So we're playing through a little deluxe reverb with a THD hot plate, which was the original hot plate that I had when I lived in New York City 25 years ago. So this has been an effective way to not get the broomstick on the ceiling for 25 years. So today I'm talking about a little bit about Gary Moore. Gary Moore, obviously, if there wasn't a Gary Moore, there'd be no Joe Bonamassa. I mean, he wrote the playbook. It's him, Walter Trout, Rory Gallagher, which we will talk about in a future episode. For kind of British-based blues rock guitar that came from the 80s, 70s, 80s into the 2000s and current. Walter's still kicking ass. So, Gary's style, like the Irish influence was very prevalent with Gary's stuff. I mean, he used a lot of reverb, so don't complain about how much reverb I'm using. I'm using Gary Moore levels of reverb today. So, and he had this wonderful tone out of a Sunburst Les Paul, which in this case is a 1960. His was a 59. Mine was a 60. Is a 60. So anyway. He had a great vibrato, and he also had a great sense of melody. Like, he would put these wonderful, big thematic, riffs. I have one that I wrote in his style that I could play, so we don't have to clear the sync license. So he would play a lot like that and have these big, really big, thematic riffs, and a great vibrato. And he was also really fast. He had this, he could play like a million miles an hour. But my favorite part of Gary's playing was these, the way he would go from the front pickup to the treble during a bend, so he'd be like in G. He'd have all that kind of stuff going on, and so he would borderline like Phrygian and always throw that stuff in. And even with Thin Lizzy, he was really, really effective as a singer, as a player. But it was always the vibrato for me, and then he would play really fast. He would throw those big bends in, and it was like taking a brick and sticking it on an accelerator in a car. He would just put the brick down, and it would never stop. He had infinite passion and ideas, almost like Stevie Ray Vaughan or Jimi Hendrix. So, and he was a really nice guy. And I miss Gary Moore. One of my fondest memories of Gary Moore was I got to have a conversation with Gary Moore and John Mayall, two of my favorite British, Irish players, musicians. And it was at a small festival in Germany, and they treated me like a peer. And I'll never forget that, even though I was just this little kid from upstate New York who was just idolizing his hero. So God rest Gary Moore, and God rest John Mayall. One of my favorite Gary Moore songs is something he didn't write. It's something that Albert Collins wrote, but he collaborated with Albert Collins, two of my favorite players. Got to meet and play with Albert Collins, and I got to meet and play with Gary Moore. But their version of Too Tired is like so ferocious, it's like... like that kind of thing, and Albert Collins was a ferocious player too. And Gary, he showed his heroes no mercy. I mean, you literally could see him just like there's a live video from Paris with Albert King and Albert Collins come out. He shows them no mercy. It's like that kind of stuff. I'm not as fast as Gary anymore, but and you're like, Gary, it's your hero, man. Calm down. Showed him no mercy. I love that. It's really a really cool Gary was always fighting his way out of situations, whether it be a pub, life or a stage. And that's why I love Too Tired. It was when I first heard that, I was just like, oh my God, it's like the best. So it's the definition of blues rock. Blues, but it rocks.